Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Good evening. Can you hear me? I'm checking my microphone. Thank you. Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Eduardo, Iris, Maizi, Duji, Gina, and who else are here? Rowena, Radmar, Ami, and I guess that's all. Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello, Irene. Can you hear me, Irene? Hello, Shiriel. Hello. Can I hope you can hear me today? Great. So today we'll have a short look of your reflection of the second assignment that you have submitted, and then we will talk about assessment, why it is important to do ongoing assessment when we develop a lesson, and then let's try to discuss a little bit about the lesson plan that you will develop for assignment number 3. Okay, so you observe in the next 3 modules, it talk about the curriculum, right? And how do we evaluate the curriculum? So here, in this course, we will not develop a curriculum. Instead, from your previous assignment, when the first one is you interview a teacher, and then you observe a class, and then you try to think about on how the learning theories were being implemented in a classroom. And most of you have reflected on how the learners think inside a math classroom. But not only that, we also try to look at on the different instructional materials that they've been using. So in assignment number 2, I'm so glad to see that many of you are sharing on uh, how students think, as well as on how do teachers facilitate math classroom. Many of you are thinking about on the first video that we watched on how do we make or what should a math classroom looks like. Okay, so this is one of the reflection in your assignment. One of you have shared that in the observation, he or she had observed that the teacher used a springboard or a warm-up activity to refresh students of the previous lesson. So in this case, uh, so they do some review and use the prior knowledge in such a way that you can proceed to the previous lesson. So in this case, it's very evident that uh, the teacher first gauge the student needs before they go for the next lesson. And then the teacher also able to ask questions that make the student think carefully before giving their answers. So therefore, the teacher allows wait time in such a way that you're giving opportunity for your students to think. And then when a student cannot understand the process of computation and analysis, the teacher asks someone, asks a student to explain it to another student. Okay? I guess that's a very good one. These are good indicators on how do we make or how what should be an environment of a math classroom that promotes thinking and problem solving. Another reflection is the teacher developed not only intuitive intelligence but also reflective intelligence. It was discussed in the previous module that it is very important that we will going to um, encourage our students to be reflective learners in such a way that they will think about on how they will work in problems that they met in our math classroom. Okay, and how did the teacher do that? Through the art of questioning and skills of facilitating classroom discussion. Okay, and then another one is she let the students solve the problem on their own and also collaboratively, and she guides them on the right path. I'm not so sure on guiding just on the guide, but I guess guiding student to solve a problem is a very challenging part. So I don't really agree on she just only guide, but guiding student is quite challenging part. Okay, so therefore, with those reflection, one of you have mentioned that student-centered learning is a way too far from subject-centered classroom. Maybe you really choose someone who advocates student-centered classroom. That's why most of your assignment, it's evident that most of the classroom that you have observed are student-centered classroom. Thus, it is very important to involve student in the learning process. Okay. Another reflection is the teacher check corrections. I guess as you try to look at the slides, you may reflect, oh, I guess that's my assignment. Okay, the teacher check the correction, an activity that's left undone by the students are returned. And as students are asked to spend time after school to complete the activity supervised by the teacher. So therefore, in this classroom, uh, the student maybe they have enough time in the afternoon that they must stay and then finish finish the assignment or the activity that they haven't done for that specific time. Therefore, we respect that it's our classroom or our instruction is it's not one fit all. There are students who need more time to finish an activity, and we respect that. So we give them time to finish it, and then it will be supervised by a teacher before they will go home. And in this classroom is well equipped for video presentation. Okay. Another one is student consistently asking the method or process to be used in that problem. So in this one, the teacher patiently repeating the process until the student get to solve it. So uh, it's not an ideal classroom that when you pose a problem, every student or one student will be able to solve it. Sometimes, maybe most of them cannot do it. That's why sometimes it's very challenging on how to guide them so that they will be successful in solving a problem. So in this case, the students are asking the teacher on how to use it, and the teacher repeat the process until the student get to solve it. Okay, and that is also a very good strategy. So this is an example of I just cut and paste on the assignment that is being submitted. I haven't edited anymore, Mr. Samson, but I hope this is not the real name of the teacher. If possible, I hope we won't give the real name of the teacher in your assignment. So this is an example of a student teacher interaction when he observed or she observed in a classroom. And in this example, it is very evident that the teacher knows how to ask questions in such a way that students will be able to describe in their own words what is x-intercept and y-intercept. Okay, and this is the classroom that we want to see in a math classroom. So as you could see in this, so the first one is the teacher. What is the coordinate at the of the point on an x-axis? So the teacher presented the graph. And then the purpose of this lesson is the students will be able to identify what is x-intercept and y-intercept. And in this classroom, that the teacher doesn't post that x-intercept is this one, y-intercept is this one. So there's an exploration in such a way that students will be able to describe what is an x-intercept. That one response here, a student responds that I substituted 0 for x and solved for the y-intercept. And I substituted 0 for y to get the x-intercept. So maybe you need more time in doing this, but it's very clear that students describe on their own words what is x-intercept and y-intercept. Okay? And that is inductive method of teaching. As well as it's it's very clear that the teacher also made use of a level 1 of inquiry based classroom. Okay, so this is a good example of a submission on how student and teacher interact uh, in a discussion. Okay, another one is there's an activity. So the teacher give opportunity for students to do the activity individually, and the teacher was guiding them until they will be able to discover the relationship in the theorem. It was an application of inductive approach where the first one is presentation of example, observe what happened, you make generalization, and then you try to check if it works to other uh, other other example or other properties or other triangle. Okay, so uh, this method, uh, the one who submitted this, it's very clear that this teacher been using an inductive approach in teaching math. Okay, another one is there are mathematics vocabulary that is difficult to understand. So here the teacher starts with a mathematical vocabulary through the lecture approach, and then let the students discover solution to the problem through heuristic. Heuristic is I'm not so sure on how the teacher do this, but maybe um, varied ways on solving that certain problem. And then the inductive and deductive method was being implemented in that classroom. So maybe the one who submitted this have observed the classroom not only once, maybe two days. Okay. So through this method, critical thinking skills of the students are developed. Okay. So as you have observed in the previous slide, based in your assignment, uh, based on the practice of the teachers, if we want to summarize it, teachers ask questions and they wait for the answers of the students. Before they start with the new lesson, they try to check the student needs, gauge the student needs, and then give collaborative activity. The teacher observe and facilitate in order that the students will be able to solve the problem. So as you could see, assessment is embedded in their instruction. Assessment doesn't happen at the end. So the teachers that you have observed are very clear on what's the end. At the end of the day, what should happen in my classroom? And that is a very important uh, that is a very important thing that we need to do as a curriculum developer. Think about the end. Okay? So with this, let's try to think about on to what extent do we help students to think critically and solve problems. As you could see on your assignment, there are many ways on how the the teachers that you have observed in such a way that you could help your students to think critically and solve problems. They have varied assessment strategy. Maybe it is not too clear that this is already assessment, but that they are implementing assessment as they do with the process to let the student understand the the goal that the teacher planned to happen on that day. Okay, so as a teacher or as curriculum developer, we should think about what is that my student must know, understand, and be able to do. And then, if that's very clear, how will I know that they know and understand and be able to do it? So, therefore, you must think of a learning objective and think about the end. Okay? So, you must have a very, very clear goal and think about what's the end and then how will you assess that. Okay? I guess I have shown this to you, the system approach of instructional design. And this is almost the same on the curriculum evaluation that is found in our module. I guess that's in module 6, um, where in our module, in our curriculum development, the first thing that we will have is needs assessment, design the curriculum, implement the curriculum, and then evaluate the curriculum. Just like designing and evaluating a curriculum, when you develop a lesson or an activity in our classroom, we need to assess the needs of our learners. We need to identify the goals. So that's what we call needs assessment. But the thing here is we give more details in designing the activity or designing the curriculum and implementing the curriculum. What we will do is after assessing, we need to think about the learning objectives and then think about assessment. So assessment is a first thought. And after that, if that's very clear for you what's the end in your mind, then let's think about the process, the procedure. Maybe you will use inductive method. Maybe you will use deductive method, or maybe you will use an inquiry approach, or maybe you will use a problem based approach. Okay? And after that, you select a material that will support on your instruction. Maybe it's using calculator or using technology, using presentation, or an activity and a learning material or maybe an instrument that will help them to do the task. And then we do evaluation on what happened and then reflect if we attain the goal that we have set in our lesson. So it is just the same of when you talk about very big one and that's a curriculum. Here in our class, you will not do a curriculum but you will do a lesson plan so that because most of you are teachers, and then for now in the Philippines, most of the students are Filipinos. We just started our new curriculum, so therefore we cannot we need to follow that. We cannot revise it, but we can reflect on when we implement that. How do we uh, make some adjustment on the implementation? Okay, so here with that flow of designing and thinking about what's the goal and then what's the end, and then thinking about how to evaluate it. Uh, in my mind, maybe it's just in designing a lesson or in designing a curriculum, it is just like eating a hamburger, where the first on the top is the learning outcome, and you need to think more about assessment in such a way that it will support the learning outcome, and then think about the instructional materials, and then try to reflect what happened. Okay, so therefore assessment is a very important thing that we need to do in our class. Even it's only an hour class, assessment should be embedded in the instruction. Okay, so assessment includes all measures employed by teachers and school to answer the question, did the student learn what they were supposed to learn? So in doing that, many of us are using quizzes, exams, reports. In our class, we do assignments, but this assignment, you need more time to do it because you need to go in a real classroom and then reflect on the material that you've been reading, and then try to look at what is happening in a real classroom. Okay, so in our class it's not quizzes and midterm exam, it's more on an output on how do you understand the materials that we have and how it is implemented in a real classroom. Okay, so I guess this is very clear for all of us as educators. Assessment refers to the various methods used to determine the extent to which the student achieved the intended learning outcomes of instruction. Okay, we will discuss about that, Duji. Actually, I have posted sample lesson plan in our class, and I want everyone to do a lesson plan the same of what I have posted. Okay, there's lesson plan that I have posted, and then you have to think about on how to follow that lesson plan. So, why do we assess? Could you think about that? I want you to scribble in your notes right now. Think about the question, why do we assess? And then answer it in your chat, in our chat. Think of three ways or three reasons why do we assess. Can I pause for a while and then think of a reason on why do we assess? may I ask everyone before I proceed? I want you to think about of this question. Why do we assess? Okay? Uh, I'm maybe I'll give you 2 minutes more to think about answer in our chat. Why do we assess? Okay, thank you for that, Duji and Cheryl. Okay, so I guess already are most of you already think on the purpose on why do we assess. Right, Eduardo. Okay, I agree. Okay, so I guess most of you have identified the purpose. Why do we assess? So, okay, so to gauge students' prior knowledge, to define and communicate learning targets to student, to provide feedback to teachers, student, and parents. Okay, and then improve teaching effectiveness. That is mentioned by, I cannot anymore see the chat. And you engage students. I hope you do this in your class. You engage students in doing self assessment and you improve student awareness of the learning progress. Okay, so if you do that, if we do the varied assessment in our classroom, in classroom where students were assessed regularly and you do it in multiple ways, students showed even substantial gains in learning. So if we do variety of assessing and we know the purpose of why do we assess, then uh, it supports students to do more. And these multiple ways of assessing show that it is substantial gains in learning. It is also mentioned by Stigens 2004 when classroom assessment is effectively implemented in their classroom, students show remarkable gains in the achievement. Okay. So all students learn more when we use a variety of assessment, but low achievers benefit the most when we do a variety of assessment. Another one, if we do more self-assessment in the classroom, it improves metacognition, which has the greatest impact on achievement. If if it's very clear for us what is our goal, and we know what's the end, and we know a variety of way of assessing the the progress of our student, then the purpose of our assessment in our classroom is to improve learning. So I hope that in our classroom, we need to think about a variety of purpose of assessing. That is, gauging student needs, and then based on your assignment, that is very evident in the classroom that you have observed. And then, even though you haven't mentioned, many of you, it's very clear that at the end, the teacher gives some assessment so that you're able to know if the students have attained the learning objectives to demonstrate understanding. And then, many of the classroom that you have observed do collaboration. So assessing is to encourage collaboration and self-direction, monitoring progress, and do self uh, checking understanding. Uh, these are the forms of assessment that we could do. You could do performance assessment, and this is being explained on the curriculum for our K to 12 curriculum. Portfolio assessment, peer review, and group feedback is encouraged, and as well as self-assessment. In our class, we do more about peer review and group feedback. And then self-assessment is, that's why I always have the question, what is your reflection on the assignment that you have done? Okay, so we do self-assessing. So I guess that's very, you know about this, that performance assessment requires students to perform a task, either answering a question, making a product that requires the application of critical thinking. Okay, so task plus assessment tool is equal to performance assessment. Okay, and these are the criteria of selecting a task. Does the task match the outcome you're trying to measure? Does the task require students to use critical thinking? Is the task worthwhile of instructional time? Okay, and then can the task be used to measure several outcomes at once? Will the task be credible, or is the task feasible, and is it clearly stated? Okay, so I guess you know how to create a rubric, and then do portfolio assessment, a collection of student best work or effort. Students selected samples of work related to the learning outcome being assessed. Okay, and this is what we always do in our classroom. That is the peer review and group feedback. And you do self-assessment on what you have learned in our observation. So with this, we could say that in your observation, it is very evident that is a first thought, not an afterthought. Okay, so I'm not so sure if on how will you implement this one in our lesson plan, but I want you to look at the sample lesson plan that we had in our classroom. The sample lesson plan there is there's a problem, and then first the problem is being posted, and then to ensure that the students understand the problem, there is a questions being asked for to check if the teacher or if the students understand the problem. So therefore, that is what we call gauging student needs. In the lesson plan that you will make, I want you to write questions that will help students think. Okay? In the lesson plan that you will submit, you have to start of a problem because in this class, one thing that I want you to bring is in a math classroom, the in a math classroom, we should have a very clear understanding that we will develop these two key skills: the problem solving and the critical thinking. And for us to attain that, is you will submit a lesson plan that promotes problem solving and critical thinking. And to do that, to promote problem solving and critical thinking, assessment should be embedded in the lesson plan that you will submit. But this assessment, the gauging students need, monitoring what happened when the students solved the problem, and as well as checking understanding and demonstrating understanding, should be embedded in the one lesson plan that you will submit. That's my point. Why do we discuss this? Okay. Uh, I'll try to continue on the inputs, your inputs in assignment 2. You have this. The next slide will be one very important reflection of your assignment is I have learned that it is very important that we also consult other teachers. Okay. By this kind of collaboration, sharing your best practice, pointing out your weakness for improvement. This would really help everyone to cater as much effective and efficient education for the student. So in this reflection, I see that uh, your reflection is about on how important is a community of practice. Another one is this reflection. This reflection. Observation is like looking at the mirror in which you see yourself, reflecting the reality and seeing your strengths and weaknesses. This task gave an idea that there's no greater approach, no better method, and definitely best strategy. The main ingredient to achieve success in teaching is knowing your student and accepting them on what they have and what they don't have. And also here, in this reflection, this activity has renewed my appreciation of what I consider to be one of the important factors for a successful teaching profession, and that is colleague collaboration. With that one, collaboration between colleagues, you need a community of practice for you to improve on how do we make math classroom better. We need someone to turn to and then discuss about what happened in our classroom. Even though this is not part of our discussion in this course, but I'd like to add with your inputs in your assignment. Very quickly, I want to share to everyone that a community of practice and collaboration is what we call, this is an approach which is what we call a lesson study. A lesson study is a continuous professional development in a school-based setting. So what is this all about? This approach is a form of collaborative practice. It is a school-based professional development initiative that aims to enhance teaching and learning through the methodology of professional sharing of practice. Okay? And then this is what happens. So, because I see the importance of sharing this to you, because some of you are just observing your colleague in your school. So therefore, maybe you need to think about a community of practice where you work together planning a lesson, and then you implement the lesson, observe what happened. So if 2 or 3 teacher plans a lesson, one teacher will implement it, the other 2 teacher will observe what happened. Because you see, one of your classmates say that it is a mirror of what I am doing in my classroom. And then you do post-lesson reflection and discussion. But the main goal of this activity is to promote critical thinking and problem solving in the classroom. Okay? So I guess that's it now. So we discussed about your reflection in your assignment, and I want you to think about on how to embed assessment in your lesson plan that you will submit for our next assignment. So for our lesson plan, the lesson plan that you will submit is, it will use the approach using problem to teach a certain content. Okay? So an example is posted in our classroom, and then I'll try to show to you one example. So, sorry. For a while, I'll try to show this. Okay. I hope you can see that now in your screen. Okay. So this is the example of a lesson plan. This one is not posted, but this is one of the output of a teacher that I've mentored 2 weeks ago when we talk about contextualized lesson plan in math. Okay, so this lesson started with a problem, and the problem is contextualized to their place. Okay, let's start. So here you have to write the topic and what grade level, and then strand. Strand here is, you tell me what strand is being addressed in your lesson. So if possible, it will address 2 strands. We have number sense, measurement, geometry, patterns and algebra. What else? Statistics. Uh, Here in this lesson, it addresses 3 strands. Okay. but it only addressed one competency in our K to 12 curriculum. And this is an interdisciplinary lesson plan. Okay. So here the drill is gauging student needs. So they have a very short review on checking if the students know how to tell the time using the picture or using the clock. Okay. And then they have a review on how many seconds are there in 1 minute, how many minutes are there in 1 hour. So this is gauging students' needs review. Okay, so and then the teacher posted a problem. So the lesson is about time elapse, but it doesn't started with finding the difference of time of and then. So that's not the case. Instead, the teacher posted a problem. And then after the problem, based on the problem, they will discuss what is time elapse. Okay? So the teacher used the problem for them to discuss what is time elapse. Okay? So in your assignment, you have to think about a problem, a very good problem that you could use in discussing a certain content in math. And then after that, you do the development of the concept or exploration or discussion on the answers of the problem that you have posted. Remember, we will use the problem to discuss the concept, and the concept is about time elapse. So the students have variety of answers. In this case, I have seen the implementation of this in a classroom. They have different solution on answering the problem, and that's a good thing. Okay, the teacher give time to solve the problem, and then you give practice exercise to check understanding, and then summarize the lesson where you lead the pupils on how to make realization, give a question, no? Be skillful on writing a good question. And then at the end, an end is checking understanding. Maybe you want to apply it to other situation. Is demonstrating as understanding, which is assessment. Okay? So this is the lesson plan that I want you to make. So we will have only one form, and all of you must start with a problem and then use that problem to discuss a certain topic. Okay? So, yes. Okay? I'll be uploading this. Actually, I already upload also sample lesson plans in our class. Okay, so I guess that's all for tonight. You may ask questions now. So we will only use one form of lesson plan, and that one, the parts of the lesson plan include this, just like the example that I have presented to you. Okay, I hope that's okay for everyone. So, any question for our next assignment? So, for the next unit, you will not make a curriculum or you will not critique a curriculum, but here you will make a lesson plan. And this lesson plan will start with a problem that you could use in discussing a content or a certain topic in a math classroom. So this is what we call teaching through problem solving. So this approach is an approach that we could use in promoting critical thinking and problem solving in a class. Any questions? I'll be uploading the lesson plan. Rowena, um, I'm not so sure on how do you describe detailed lesson plan. Is it with a column of a teacher and a student activity? I just want to have this form, the lesson sample lesson plan that I have uploaded in our class, where the teacher will ask a question, then think about what's the possible answer of the student. So maybe, yes, it's a detailed lesson plan. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Rowena. So I want to see on how assessment is being embedded in your lesson plan. Oh, I just read this, Eduardo. So you have a professional sharing time for 2 hours a week. That's very good. Here in the Philippines, we have what we call the Learning Action Cell. But I'm not so sure on how Learning Action Cell is being implemented in the class. Here in our area, we try to mentor principal on how to do lesson study in their school. Okay, in such a way that they will help teachers on how to design a good lesson plan. Yes, Minette, sample lesson plans were being uploaded. I guess I'm not so sure. Long time ago, you already have your sample lesson plans in our class. Thank you. That's good, Eduardo. No, so you a lot time to discuss lessons, strategies, and how to discuss a particular topic. That's good. Is it none? Let me check. It's in Unit 2. You could see their sample lesson plan. After the resource on teaching problem solving in math classroom. I have posted that earlier for you to prepare for the Unit 3. Please check on that, Aminette. It's in a folder. It's a zip folder. Aduji, I recommend that you try to write a lesson plan for your grade level that you could use in your class. Okay? Uh, Aminette, please check if you have found it. It is a zip file where there are about one, two, three, four lesson plans. Okay, one example is about algebraic expression. Teaching algebraic expression for grade 5, where you started with a matchsticks. And then the second lesson is about a lesson plan for grade 1, but it is written in English, how to teach sets. No? So it started with classifying object, but here the lesson is about sets. The next one is a lesson plan on perimeter of a triangle. Started with the problem of Luisa on what could be the possible measurement of the sides of a triangle. And one last example is the lesson plan. This is implemented in a high school classroom. The lesson is about law of sines, but it started at the end of the class. They derived the law of sines. Okay, so there are already 4 lesson plan being posted in our classroom. Kindly check if you can find it. Any one of you could tell me that you could find the 4 lesson plan already uploaded in our class, except for this, the one that I've shown you on screen is not yet uploaded because this lesson plan, we implement this last week with a grade 4 teacher. We try to develop a contextualized lesson plan. So the context in Hingoog City. Great. Okay. So I'm in it. So I hope you could. Okay, great. Okay. So any other questions? So therefore, I hope that's very clear to all of you that the lesson plan that you will submit is you will start with the problem. Okay, good. And then use that problem to discuss the concept. Yes. Okay. So you will use that form of lesson plan. Except maybe the last lesson plan, which is a high school lesson plan, we follow on how depth ed write a lesson plan. So I recommend the format for the first 3 lesson plan, except for the trigonometry lesson plan. But it could be easily be reformatted just like the 3 lesson plan that I have uploaded. Okay. So I guess that's all for tonight. And you give your best for the next assignment. Okay? And I hope that lesson plan that you will develop, you could use that in your classroom. Remember, the purpose of this assignment is you will develop a lesson plan that will address on developing the 2 important key skill, problem solving and critical thinking in our math classroom. Okay, so good night everyone and thank you.